We have another wonderful episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast for you today. Today we are speaking to Stella Diamant, who is talking about her organization, the Madagascar Whale Shark Project Foundation, that is in and around, obviously, Madagascar. But we're talking to Stella. When we did the interview, she was back home in Belgium. She talks about, discovering how whale sharks really inspired her to be, as a researcher of whale sharks. And you'd be surprised at how much we don't know about whale sharks. So that's what we're going to find out today. What we do know now because of the research and why science is so important in discovering how this massive shark has gone really undetected by science, I'm going to say. Not undetected because it's so big, but we just don't know much about it from a scientific standpoint, and she's helping us gain more research. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, how her connection to Simon Pierce, who's been on the podcast before, and talk about the Marine Megafauna Foundation and how that got her start to doing whale sharks. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk a lot about everything that has to do with whale sharks. So if you like whale sharks, this is the episode for you. So let's start the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I'm your co-host, Angelo, and here with my co-host, Dr. David Ebert. Dave, I know you like whale sharks, but I know you prefer the lost sharks. Have you, has there been a lost shark, whale shark? We know it's really just one species, but, maybe one day there'll be one that you'll be discovering again?
Well, it's funny because as good as I am at finding lost sharks, I'm not so good at finding whale sharks. It's only the biggest freaking fish in the ocean. And it's just, as I share here in the episode, it's like been my curse, to see a whale shark. Every place I go, it's like, guarantee you'll see them here, Dave. No, they're not. They just don't show up. They don't want to cooperate with me.
Yeah. Because when you went to Ecuador, you went out diving with the Mana Trust.
Yep.
And they were like, hey, we're going to go see. There should be some whale sharks here. Whale sharks weren't there. You left. Whale sharks came.
Showed up 2 days later. Yep.
So 2 days later. And then when you went to Madagascar recently, did you go diving for whale sharks, or they just weren't? It wasn't the season.
We went out Stella did. In fairness, Stella told me, she said we're a little early, probably a couple weeks early for the whale shark. So I wasn't. My hope was not as high as it was at other places.
You didn't go in the water looking for them.
No, we were just I was ready though. I was ready, but I was just disappointed as I've been. And I mean, this goes back like 35, 40 years.
Yeah, it's not just these. This is a long time.
These are just the most recent one here. So good at finding lost sharks. Just don't bring me along for whale sharks.
But that's okay, because we're going to find out a lot about whale sharks today with Stella Diamant. Why don't you talk a little bit about Stella, how you met her, because it was your connection again that brought us here and brought her on the podcast.
Yeah, actually, it was Rhett Bennett for the Wildlife Conservation Society in South Africa. He's is a director of the Shark and Ray program in the Western Indian Ocean. He connected me with her when I was going to set up my expedition to Madagascar, and her and I talked a few times, and we hooked up in Noisy Bee, Madagascar, and it was great. She's a dynamic young woman, and she's really on the ball. She's got got this Madagascar Whale Shark Project Foundation going. She, as you mentioned, she got on initially with, did some stuff with Simon Pierce, who's a good friend of the show. He's been on the program. And there's a few other people that we had one of these things, we had a number of mutual connections in the field. We had a chance to meet, and it was really fun to get to see her in action and in the field. She has a lot of young Malagasy up and coming students working, interning for her. And we did get to go out, went out and spent a day in the ocean, saw some whales, dolphins, and all kinds of other marine life, just no whale sharks.
Right.
And we did some snorkeling and stuff. So I had a wonderful time. It was great. Anytime you're on the water, beautiful ocean like this, great. And hey, Stella's, it was for me. It was great to see her in action because she's a dynamo, boy. I tell you, I was really impressed. I just didn't know much about her because she works. She's in Belgium. She goes to Madagascar there, and I hadn't been to Madagascar, or our paths hadn't crossed yet. So, but we have now, and it was really, really, really awesome having her on the show here.
Oh, it was, and it's we've seen. People like her on this podcast a lot, where people are starting projects. on sharks because there's just not enough information. And we're seeing these organizations pop up where they're, small organizations that employ local people and that, work with local communities to not only find information on the fish that they're looking for, the shark that they're looking for, but also help the communities as well. Obviously whale sharks is a huge ecotourism market in Madagascar, but there needs to be some code of ethics, as Stella mentioned, and she helped produce them. But we've seen in other places too, where you're working with the local community to get more information on these sharks and the value that these sharks bring to the coastline. In this case, it's to tourism, and so we want to make sure that these sharks are going to keep coming back and people can view them and enjoy them in a very ethical way. And I just think it's wonderful. So let's get started with the interview. Here's Stella Diamant talking about the Madagascar Whale Shark Project Foundation, how she got all started, and all the stuff that goes with it, the fun stuff of running an organization. Yeah. Here's the interview. We'll talk to you after. Hey, Stella, welcome to the Beyond Jaws podcast. Are you ready to talk about whale sharks?
Hello, I'm ready, yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, great. Well, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast, where we have an awesome guest today. We have the fabulous Stella Diamant from Belgium, who's the founder and director of the Madagascar Whale Shark Project, an organization doing amazing research out of Noisy Be, Madagascar, that I had the opportunity to actually meet Stella in person in her organization and get to know during my recent expedition to Madagascar. Stella was drawn to whale sharks after seeing her first whale shark in 2014 through the Marine Megafauna Foundation with Simon Pierce, who was on the podcast last May. In 2016, Stella presented at the 4th International Whale Shark Conference on a paper entitled "A Preliminary Observation on Whale Sharks in Noisy Be, Madagascar." Stella has had quite the journey to where she is today, having worked in Zambia, Costa Rica, Mozambique, Tanzania, Namibia, which is a favorite country of mine, Mexico, Hawaii, and I'm sure a whole lot of other places we'll find out about today. Stella has 15 publications to her credit, including a recent paper that I just found out that her and I co-authored, were entitled "Only 1% of important shark and ray areas in the Western Indian Ocean are fully protected from fishing pressure." So that's something else we have to talk about. And she has some breaking news today to talk about on her whale shark research here that she's been doing in Madagascar. Stella did her bachelor's degree at the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. She has a master's degree in evolution and conservation from Imperial College in London. And as they say, her current position is she is the founder and director of an incredible organization, the Madagascar Whale Shark Project. And Stella, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave.
So we go through your whole history. We know exactly what you've done.
Yeah. So, I do a lot of investigation ahead of time. We always ask all of our guests, what got you interested in marine science and in whale sharks?
Yeah, so as you say, it's been quite a journey. I mean, I come from, Brussels in Belgium, where you have no ocean, and I wasn't raised up near the sea. I was into nature and horse riding, and always wanted to work, with animals somehow. Initially, I wanted to be a vet, and it's through a first experience in Madagascar when I was 21 that I discovered this country and realized conservation was a field. I didn't know. It was kind of recent at the time, and I really loved the aspect that you work with communities. You work towards species protection, but it's also something that ideally benefits communities. So then it was kind of on my radar, and obviously, like everyone, I always kind of dreamt of seeing a whale shark and scuba diving. And after that first trip, I got into that, but still hadn't seen a whale shark. And then I came back and did my master's. Kind of always wanted to go back to Madagascar, but things got in the way. Ended up in Namibia and a few other places. And then eventually I went back there when I was 24. And that's the year you mentioned when I saw my first whale shark. That's when I think a lot of things aligned in my head that, wow, these animals still exist and we don't know anything about them. And at the time, there was no research going on. There had been previous work by Rachel Graham, but she had stopped. And so we didn't know how many whale sharks there were. And I was just, fascinated and feeling quite comfortable in Madagascar. There was so much work to be done, and very little people or capacity there. So for a reason, I felt like maybe, I could do it. And that's how I got into sharks, pretty much. It was quite a coincidence, and I felt there was an opportunity there to do something meaningful in Madagascar.
So what brought you originally to Madagascar? Like, what was that first trip about? Was it just more of a vacation? Was it you sort of backpacking in and around Madagascar?
No, it was a volunteer experience with WWF. They have a program.
Ah, okay.
I don't know if it still exists, but basically you apply, and if you're selected, you're sent to one of their ongoing projects. And that one then was about coral reefs and alternative livelihoods. And so it was already like a first kind of experience in conservation.
Nice.
Yeah.
But you have quite the resume in terms of a lot of the countries, a whole variety of countries you've been to. I'm just kind of curious, like, how did you, things like when you've been to Namibia and Zambia and all these, because Namibia is one country I really enjoy. How did you happen to go to Namibia?
So, the thing that everyone told me at uni was that you need to have field work to be credible in, leading a project in the field. And it was something, I hadn't really done before. So that was kind of my ambition, I'm going to see if the field is for me. And so I applied to these kind of technician positions or ecologists, and you have a range of these positions that often cover your costs. They don't necessarily pay. And so I ended up on quite a few projects. Well, some it's, I think you should never pay for one, but some it's interesting in terms of experience. And so I ended up gaining a lot of fieldwork experience in a range of fields, I'd say.
So, well, like for example, just kind of curious on the. Let me back up a little bit. When you were going through school, like when you started to go to like university and stuff, did you already kind of know at that point you wanted to do something in the science, in the biological sciences, or the marine sciences?
Yeah, for sure.
At that point,
marine for me, like, I'm not gonna lie, it was exciting, but it was unknown. It's not something I grew up with, so it was more terrestrial initially. But then I started scuba diving and discovered all of that, and then it was an environment I felt very comfortable in.
When you went to I got asked with Namibia, what did you do in Namibia? What kind of work did you do there?
I'm not sure you're ready for this. I studied baboons with a behavioral project.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I spent a lot, when I was a graduate student in South Africa, people listen to that podcast know I spent a lot of time in Namibia. So what part of Namibia were you studying the baboons in?
It was in a reserve called Saobis. It was kind of, middle of Namibia, pretty much. And it's a project run by the Zoological Society of London, where basically you get to know the baboons and do, focal follows, and basically spend all your days just walking after them and getting to know them.
Sounds
and it
awful.
was amazing. It was amazing.
Did you get up to any of the? Did you go to did you see cheetahs very often there? That was.
No, but I did. We did some travels after with the field team, and we saw quite a lot. Like, you get so used to being in that environment and so tuned in. So it was amazing, that feeling to be really knowing what was going on.
Yeah. Did you get over to the coast to Swakopmund or up to the Skeleton Coast at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
An amazing place. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. Well, that's what I said. I spent a whole time. I've spent a lot of time on the coast, but I've been to Etashapan and all that area, all up through there. So I was just got a lot of good memories from that place. So,
well, when you did the it sounds like all the different experiences in each country were very different in terms of environments, in terms of obviously countries and cultures and things like that. What attracted to you to do these different opportunities? One work with baboons, one work with coral reefs. Like, was it just more of like, oh, that looks cool, like I'm going to try and get more field work in this area or on land and in underwater and that? Why didn't you just pick underwater for all of it, or why did you pick land for all of it, or were you just going for that variety? Was that on purpose?
I'm not sure. I think it was what I could get at the time. It was, and I'm sure it still is incredibly competitive with how you know and whether you qualify, the languages you speak. But I was just, it's always been a bit of a problem, but I see it as a strength now, I would say. But everything interests me, and I've always struggled to choose, because I think there's so much to do in so many fields, and so it was just a general interest for a lot of stuff. But eventually, what made me kind of, I don't know if I picked Madagascar or Madagascar picked me, but how this whole project happened, it was mainly because I felt, I could do something, tangible and long term, and I find, it's the kind of opportunity I was looking for, to not just come through and leave, but be there for longer and really build something that would last. So that was, I think, my eventual ambition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely the explorer type. I can tell from that. Did you spend time in like you were in Mozambique and Tanzania, and I assume looking at some whale sharks there with Simon and the Marine Megafauna group, and then that sort of, so you kind of there. I believe there's some areas there where you can see the whale sharks pretty regularly. So then, when you first went to like sort of Madagascar, did you have any kind of a clue you might see them there, or did you?
At the time, locals knew they were there, but it's as you know, Dave, it's a big country. Some people, haven't traveled to other places. It's still very remote, especially at that time. And so actually I overheard in a tiny hotel. I had been traveling in Madagascar like a kind of a month, helping out on some projects I knew back then, and then my mum came to meet me, and we had planned to go to the north, and then we were speaking to some people who just got back, and they said, we've seen whale sharks there, and I was like, oh, I didn't know they were here. Like, it was just that kind of coincidence. And then my mum got quite sick on that trip, so she was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit this one out. So we went together the first day, I'll always remember, and then I went out a few more days, and back then, it was just, there was no one around. It was raining, the water was dark, but I'll always remember that kind of feeling.
I know. After I came back, I did a podcast on talking about Madagascar, and it was definitely one of the. And I've been to a lot of places, but one of the more difficult places to get around, especially when we went down to the south after Noisy Bee. It's just if you're right there, it's sort of you go out in the boat, but it's definitely not an easy country to get around to do a lot of stuff. You really have to get around. And so after you saw your first sort of whale shark there, you went back. You're all excited. You wanted to do you decided you're going to start this foundation.
No. I was. I'm surprised I got this far, to be honest. No. My initial, I was 24, 25 then. So I came back, and like everyone else, I Googled who's working on whale sharks now, and got in touch with Rachel, and eventually I got in touch with Denny Ramirez, who's been amazing at the time, who works in Mexico. And she said, well, you should talk to Simon. He works in that region. Maybe he's interested in helping you out. So that's eventually how I spoke to Simon, who back then was unattainable for me. And he said, actually, we've had a decrease, like a big decline in the sightings in Mozambique. Maybe they've come to Madagascar. Let's try to train you up, and then to find some funding for you to do like a first year of monitoring, photo ID. So that's how eventually, I met Simon in 2015 in Tanzania, and pretty much trained me up in photo ID. And I was useless. I couldn't freedive. I couldn't keep up with the sharks. I was just like, how am I gonna? What am I getting myself into? And then, slowly, it took a lot of dedication. I moved back on my parents. I didn't have a job. I was just writing up these grants without knowing how to write up grants. And then eventually we got a first pocket of money for me to go in 2016. And back then I had kind of got in touch with a few operators, and the ones I still work with now, who are kind of the leaders in the tourism, whale watching and swimming with whale sharks industry. They were like, you can come on the boat for free and collect data, and then we'll see how that goes. And And so I went out like every day that first year, and we got more than 100 different whale sharks identified, and then it was like, oh, this is actually like there's something happening here. So over the next few years, like I was still juggling, other jobs and expeditions, and still doing a bunch of different stuff, but it was slowly kind of taking over. And then since after COVID, we had a 2-year forced break, I think, like everyone. And then since 2022, I'm just full-time on this. Yeah. So I didn't know it was going to become a foundation or anything. It was just kind of let's see where this goes. And I think it was good in a way. Again, no expectations.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. You mentioned to me there's a lot to unpack in just what you said there, because there's so much information that I want to find out more about. You mentioned when you first started swimming with them and you first started trying to, like, free diving was difficult. I can see that. Like, that doesn't look like an easy thing to do. But keeping up with them was difficult too. I think a lot of people, when we see whale sharks in a video or on TV, we don't realize, just like sometimes with great whites and other things, other sharks we see, we don't realize how slowed down the video is with these sharks. They, like, whale sharks, I've been told, like, the reason why people snorkel when they swim with them is because they have to get back on the boat to, like, kind of follow them because they move so quickly through the water. Was that what you mean by you had trouble keeping up with them?
Yeah. I mean, they swim really fast, and you have to, give everything each time. And I mean, it's a habit, like now it's easy. But at the time it was,
right.
And the pace, it's very fast paced. It's not like maybe I go in or not. It's like you have to go in now, and you cannot hesitate or think back or forget something. And so initially, especially that first experience in Tanzania, I mean, I was with like the best guys from MMF, and I felt completely out of my comfort zone and completely useless. But yeah.
Had you been free diving before? Or was that literally your first time you were free diving was with the whale sharks?
I mean, I didn't even really know about it except, from some movies, and then after that experience, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn properly. So I did like the first level, and now it's become a hobby and a passion and something I do as a sport as well. And it's opened up so like a new dimension for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you're out doing your whale shark stuff now, is it pretty much either yourself or some of the volunteers, people you have working with you, pretty much have to free dive to get like a photographic identification of the things?
I mean, we asked that people have, I mean, we used to have a volunteer program that we've stopped now for a range of reasons, and we focus, only on Malagasy students, and it's one of the aspects of the projects I'm really proud of, and I think it's super important. And so this year, we trained them up in freediving, and it's great to see them, becoming comfortable with that as well. And Yeah,
I was gonna say you done just my experience there with you. You definitely are really getting a lot of the Malagasy local people involved, young people involved, excited about the whole thing, and so you're getting them all trained up, I guess, to kind of help kind of fill in when you're not there in country. Do they get out? Do they go out in the field this time?
It still is like one of the more difficult aspects of running a project that is seasonal. Is that some of the year, now it's cyclone season, the boats are out of the water, everyone's off, so it's with the team. I mean, we kind of try juggle this. So one of the students, he just came back now. He was doing interviews with fishermen, and then another one is back in his hometown now. But still, everyone is working kind of remotely. But it's mainly to have a good solid team, so that when you see the whale sharks, you're in a position where you can actually collect data and be efficient, because we're seeing less and less of them, and there's more and more tourists. So it's becoming like the opportunity we have to do work on them is becoming quite limited. Yeah.
No. Some of the young people you have working there, like some of the students I met, they're actually working towards like graduate degrees, like masters or PhD with you.
Yeah. So we each year it's part of our commitment and our agreements with the different institutions we work with in the country. we accommodate at least one, but now two students at the master's level. We have collaborations with different universities. There's only 3 for now that do marine biology, and we collaborate with all 3. And then, but this year we had also a bachelor student from one of the 3 unis that we started working with this year. And then what we like to do is we keep welcoming them again, and they can grow their own projects and really work towards more ambition. So Armel, who's one of the few students we had before, he's come back now 2 years in a row, and he's starting this month his PhD in Madagascar. First one on sharks.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
yeah,
oh, nice,
really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot. There was a lot of stuff done on sharks years ago, but nothing really has been done recently on any of the sharks really there. Obviously whale sharks are such a high profile. Is there much of a tourism industry diving with the whale sharks up there? Is it much of a tourist attraction?
It's become huge. It's become huge now. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were involved in like developing some of the protocols for people diving with the whale sharks there.
Yes, I mean it was part of the initial plan, when Simon. So after I trained with Simon in Tanzania, he came out, I think, 3 years in a row, helping me tag, and it was, I mean, the tourism back then was still manageable and quite small. So he told me immediately, you need to have a code of conduct and you need to train people up, otherwise it's just going to go mad. So we've initially it was just like a voluntary code of conduct, and then we've done free training for years and years, and now since end of 2023 it's become official decree in Madagascar, and so far it's the only country in Africa that has an official decree. So operators, they have to follow this law, and tourists as well. The issue we have now is enforcement, because obviously if no one's telling people off, they say yes, and then they do the other thing. So we're working closely now with authorities, and we did the first patrols at sea this year to really warn people about consequences and encourage them to follow these rules. But it's a very complicated topic in most places in the world. Unless you have very strict rules and enforcement, it's difficult. You're underwater, you're with a species that moves. It's complicated. Yeah.
So with your as you developing this thing, how many sharks have you tagged now? You've been putting out satellite tags?
Satellite tags we did with Simon the first year. We had 8, and then since we've moved to acoustic tagging, because we really wanted to know how much they were using this bay, because there's the tourism, but there's also like a marine protected area plans, and so we wanted to be able to contribute to that. And we've deployed more than 60 now since a few years. Yeah.
Can you explain, just for the audience, the difference between the satellite tags and an acoustic tag in terms of how it's put on, how it functions, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, so it attaches externally, both of them for whale sharks, because they have such thick skin. You cannot just do it like you would with another shark. So you have a kind of an adapted spear where you have a little anchor, like a razor blade, and then a little thread, and then the tag. And then you just kind of aim at it like you would for a skin sample. It's quite similar, and the shark doesn't usually react, because again the skin is very thick, so it's just gonna kind of lay itself within the skin denticles and stay there for. Sometimes they fall off, sometimes they stay for years, but usually with the acoustics they can stay for a few years. And then the difference is that the acoustic tags, they really need receiver stations. So it's kind of communications they have between the two units. And then you need these receiver stations that will kind of collect the data from the tagged sharks. So the more tagged sharks you have, the more data likely you're going to have if they stick around. If they go somewhere else, unless you have other stations there, you don't really have data, which is one of the issues we have in Madagascar. We're now collaborating with other researchers, especially one person, Sal, who's working on cetaceans. So he has also receiver stations coupled to hydrophones, and that way we can have data about our sharks. Cool. But otherwise, unless, I mean, Madagascar at the moment, no one else is doing acoustics, and then satellite tags, they will give you very neat data whenever a shark comes back to the surface to feed. So usually it indicates that the shark is surface feeding. So you will have like these nice kind of GPS tracks you can see, but it's very limited in time. So it's only for whale sharks, it's only going to be for a few months. Whereas with acoustics, you can have a few years.
Right.
I don't know.
And the receivers for acoustics, the hydrophones, they stay in the water. How deep are they when you put them in? Because I know like whale sharks they're not a shallow species necessarily. So are they floating in a buoy system, like maybe mid water column? Or do they stay at the top?
You have different systems. We've started using the second system now, but usually you have a mooring that you kind of deploy to a place you can dive, and then you need to pick up these receivers. We do it twice a year to get the data. Otherwise, we cannot get it. So we have 8 that we have in relatively shallow waters, so that anyone who can dive has a good experience diving can go. So they're between 20 and 30 meters. And then we also have the other technology where they're much deeper. So they call the VR2 ARs, and they can go to, I think, 300, 400 meters. But you need to find like a place where you have that kind of depth, and then they just sit there also on a mooring. And then you have a kind of release technology. Yeah, I mean, it depends, because we've tried to be quite random with our study design. So we didn't just put them where we know the sharks go. We kind of put them as a big grid.
Just to see.
So you have clearly some places where the sharks go more and other places less. And now it's quite interesting with this new collaboration. We see the sharks go really quite far out where we didn't think they would go.
That's awesome.
So I was going to say, you have some big news you're going to share with us and break news today, right? On one of your whale sharks.
Yes. So it was kind of, I was always waiting for this. When is one of the whale sharks we've identified in Madagascar going to be seen elsewhere? So like out of this country. It's quite a massive country. And we've identified, we're sitting on 546 identified whale sharks thanks to photo ID. So
wow. Just in Madagascar.
Yeah. And you have other whale sharks that are seen in Mozambique, Tanzania, Seychelles. So there is this collaboration now at the global level with the shared photo ID platforms. The one we use is called Wildbook, where everyone loads their data. But some people, they don't know how to use Wildbook. They don't have the staff. Anyway, so for all of these reasons, because we've had that decline since a few years, I was quite keen to find, are there any sharks going to Seychelles? Because we know teams in Mozambique and Tanzania load their data onto this database, but Seychelles doesn't, because back in the day when I started, they had a lot of whale sharks. And then as we've seen more and more whale sharks in Madagascar, mostly because I was counting them, Seychelles has seen quite a decline. So I was always curious, like, is now that we're seeing less, are they seeing more of them there? So I got in touch with Chris, who works in Seychelles on the whale shark program. And because they had so few sightings around 2015, they kind of stopped the monitoring. So they started again a few years ago, but again, they don't have a dedicated team, so it's very opportunistic. So we spoke in August, and I shared all our protocols with him, and I said, okay, like, try to take pictures of them. And so, we kind of committed with the team to, process them for him. And so we got 20 photo IDs in December, and surprise, we recognized a shark from Madagascar in one of them. So
wow.
Really cool news. And when you think about it, it's not so far for a whale shark. It's 1,200 kilometers probably. Yeah.
I just looked it up. The straight line distance, depending on where you're going from, is about between 1,600 and 1,800 kilometers. But again, it depends on where you're measuring from. I think they're measuring from like the mid, like inland of that, so not necessarily from the coast. So that makes sense. That's crazy. That's awesome.
It's awesome, and it's really cool because it's a shark we've seen once. So we have like a logbook of all the sharks, and they have names, and we know how many times we've seen them per year. So some we see a lot, and others like this guy. He's called Mistral. It's the name of a wind in France, and we thought it was pretty. We had nice. Moments where there were like star names, then wind names. Anyway. And then we saw him only once in 2019, and then where has he been all this time? He could have been in Madagascar and we just didn't see him, we didn't photo ID him.
Right.
But now he's been in Seychelles.
Wow.
Really cool.
Wow, that's
That is
gonna be
so
really cool. That's gonna be
And
really,
that's the
really
first
cool.
one you found. It doesn't mean that there's probably more that have probably gone
Yeah.
back and forth. You just haven't discovered it yet.
Yeah,
Right?
well, that might inspire the people in the Seychelles to really get
Right.
motivated.
Yeah,
to do more, get
we're
the
discussing
program
this,
going.
and we'd love to go and do more collaborations, like sampling the prey they eat and see if it's similar. And I mean, there's so many questions. Are they using Seychelles more now because they're using Madagascar less? Is it completely unrelated? Have they always been? Have they always have been using the two? Don't know.
Have you looked around Madagascar for any other whale shark aggregation sites around Madagascar?
It's such a big country. I mean, we're in touch with quite a few, NGOs and researchers, and we know of whale sharks swimming through. They've been sighted, but not kind of on a regular basis. And actually,
Right.
I can't remember if we talked of this together, Dave, but a whale shark was fished in southwest Madagascar in August, and we know from the satellite tags we deployed with Simon that the sharks we see in the sea bay up north, they swim past that village. At least we had some sharks that did that route. So is it just a route? Is it a feeding aggregation? Likely there's a lot more than we think, yeah.
Oh, okay. But well, I know a lot of the island there, I know it's a big country. I think we figured it's like the 4th largest island in the world, Andrew?
I think so, yes.
Yes. And so like I can imagine there's a lot of remote areas where people just cannot get into, or there's just nobody you're not able to really do research unless you're in a boat.
No, which is why, using different approaches and techniques, especially with whale sharks, is really interesting. Like now with this photo ID, we have this awesome match, but with the satellite tags 10 years ago now, we saw that they were going all the way south, which is also like thousands of kilometers. So now with the acoustics, we know, okay, they use this area this way and this way, but we'd like to use satellite again because we see them less and less. Or is there like another cool place they found where they're feeding, or are they actually just getting fished once they're offshore? I mean, there's so many explanations.
Yeah,
it's quite complex.
Have you considered like branching out into some other species, like the the leopard sharks there, or some of the other species that are kind of common?
Yeah, I would like to. It's just always the issue, finding funding, finding capacity.
Funding,
like I said,
funding.
Yeah, it's we really try to work with Malagasy, so we need to find a project lead, and usually it starts with the students. They have some ideas, we have some shared interests, and then we kind of push them and support them into kind of developing that. But it's been kind of on the radar to do something on the mobular rays, because some species are now critically endangered, and we see them quite a lot, and would be really interesting to know more. So actually, right now at this time, we have a new student he started 2 weeks ago, specifically looking at the fishing of mobular rays in the sea bay. To better understand which areas they use, maybe eventually tag them. But we're doing that now.
Okay, I was just curious. I mean, you could just spend a whole career just doing the whale sharks. I'm sure.
I'm sure.
But I know when I was there's just so many other species that look like they lend themselves a lot of good opportunity to do some other work there and stuff.
For sure.
And you'll probably, as your organization grows, you'll probably be more and more doing all the bureaucratic paperwork and stuff, and all the younger people will be doing all the fun stuff.
Exactly.
That's usually the trajectory. All the reason you got into it's like it doesn't end up that way. You'll be busy with other stuff.
Well, is your focus, the organization's focus, is to find, like for the whale sharks anyway, at this point, is to find out, where they are, where they go, and who they are, like how many there are, because there's just there wasn't information on that before. Now you have this longer term data set. You have almost 600 individuals that you've identified. Now you're even, you're well into the networking, knowing people in Seychelles, obviously Mozambique and elsewhere. So you'll be able to understand, just in the general region of this part of the ocean, you'll be able to understand where they go. obviously there's a lot more to accomplish in terms of that distribution, and you may, like, just in a lifetime, we may or may not know where all these different individuals go. Are there other aspects that is a priority for the organization other than distribution, or is distribution such an important part that it takes up most of your role now and even in the future?
I was just talking about this today. There's so much to do, which is very exciting and also a bit overwhelming. And for me, it's really, at this point, there's kind of two priorities. One is exactly what you said, where are the whale sharks? Are they using other places? And if so, why is that? And that's just a super interesting research question. But there's also that growing tourism, growing human pressure on that region, which is incredibly biodiverse, not just for the whale sharks, but we've been surveying now for 10 years. We know there's all these other amazing species. There's the Omura whale. It's the only place in the world where you can see it on a regular basis. There's humpback whales, there's manta rays, and it's being exploited for for tourism, and the forests are being cut, and all of this is impacting eventually that biodiversity. So for me, that's also super important that we continue to guide this development, so that there is that awareness that stays with the communities, with the tourism, so it doesn't become empty in a few years. And so it's difficult to juggle both. But both
for sure. Well, and you're well positioned within the community too, because you know them, you've been working with them for 10 years, you know the operators, you've been working with them, you know how the business is run because you've been watching it. You must have you must be in a unique position to work with them to ensure that, hey, look, we want you guys not only to thrive, but we want these whales to thrive. You can't thrive without these whale sharks. You can't thrive without these whale sharks. So how can we work together to do that? Do they get that point? A lot of the operators that I'm sure the ones that you work with do. Yeah,
it's really a complicated topic because everyone's there to make a profit,
of course.
And it's a very poor country, so you're kind of stuck with really two audiences of people struggling to eat and going out fishing and putting themselves in really risky positions, and at the same time a lot of expats coming in and making quite a lot of money, and both are important and both need to cohabitate. So and then you have authorities who are often difficult to work with or have other priorities. So it's really juggling all of that and having the right arguments, and it takes a lot of time. And people change. Like this year we had political crisis. All the ministers have changed again. So it's it means you have to start again and again. And eventually, I mean, for me, that conversation, it should be without us foreigners in. It's about Malagasy people managing their heritage. So now with the students, they're slowly becoming, ambassadors, and we have a really cool collaborative little project with other organizations working in Nosy Bay on coral reefs, on teaching swimming lessons to communities, and together we've kind of grown these young people into ambassadors. So we're hoping now they can, have these conversations, and I think that's I mean, we shouldn't be the ones telling them how to run the country, and for me that's quite an important part of that conversation. But it remains difficult, and it's making a lot of money, the whale shark industry. It's filling hotels, it's filling flights, so it's you cannot stop it, and even if you forbid it, people are still going to do it because there's no enforcement. So it's about finding that kind of balance. It's I've sought a lot of help on this, and eventually, I mean, no one really knows how to do this. It's so different in each context. So you have to adapt and explore and test, and long-term work.
Well, I
can imagine.
Yeah. Well, Stella, this has been a really terrific conversation with you. What advice would you have for someone who's interested in pursuing a career, like maybe starting an NGO or something like you've done? What advice would you have for them?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's not for everyone. And I would say, be sure this is really what you want to do. Because and my experiences in the field have really told me this, some stuff I love doing it, but I wouldn't do it again. And I think it's really about finding where your strengths are and what you find easy, you know, this is where you should go. And I find a lot now, I mean, at least, you know, 10, 15 years ago when I graduated, it was very much, you know, you have this one option, which is you do a PhD and you need to be, you know, modeling and you're going to be stuck doing data analysis for a while. But I mean, now there's so many avenues, you know, in conservation and in shark research. Like the communication sector is huge, the fundraising. We need like a lot of people on board with different skills. So I would really, I mean, we receive a lot of requests and I turn a lot of them down because, like I said, we focus on training in country now. But I would really encourage anyone who has a passion or a talent, you know, how can you use that for the better good, and in this case for sharks, because we lack still a lot of these careers.
And sort of final question here is, where do you see yourself in the next, say, 10, 20 years? Where do you see yourself going?
It's very short term how we plan things with the project, because there's always all these emergencies and it's probably not the best way to run a project at the moment. Each year I tell myself it's too hard. I'm too tired. I want to, you know, move on. And it's at the same time it's so exciting to keep growing the project and adapt each time and pivot. And I love what I do. So really, for me, still my ambition is that it becomes Malagasy-led. You know, I think I'm going to be still involved in some parts of it, but eventually that it has an impact. I mean, we've done already a lot, but that it can, you know, keep coming up with these solutions, and that eventually I can step back a bit and find good, talented Malagasy scientists who want to continue doing this. For me, that would be ideal.
Right,
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
That's great. Well, that's terrific. That's terrific, Stella. Really enjoy having you here. We'll definitely have you come back again sometime and share some new exciting science that you've been doing, or new adventures you've had going on. And but really, thank you for coming on. And I just want to thank you. I had such a wonderful time getting to know you when I was in Madagascar and going out with you, even though we didn't see any whale sharks when I was out there. But,
you need to come back.
I need to come back and go next time. And next time you'll guarantee me I'll see whale sharks.
Yeah. So, Dave, are you 0 for 2 for whale sharks? Because you tried in Costa Rica too, and you didn't get the whale sharks.
I'm about 0 for 10. To be honest with you, I'm 0 for 10. It's like,
I think you don't want to anti whale shark.
They don't like me for some reason. I don't know why they don't like me. They disappear. So anyway, but thank you very much, Stella. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you, Stella, for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. It was great to find out what it's like to run an organization. It's not an easy thing, folks. I think a lot of people are like, I'm going to have my own nonprofit organization. Well, when you run a nonprofit organization, you don't always get to do the science of the nonprofit organization as much, because there's a lot of administrative stuff going on. And she talked about it in this episode, and I thought it was really great to share that, to say, hey, you know what? Like, even though we're doing this and we're a small but nimble organization, and we hire a lot of people that are local, and we're helping the students understand more about what's happening with whale sharks so that they can eventually maybe either take over or start their own, or be able to contribute to their own coastline and the information that goes on the coastline. I thought it was great. Dave, what were your thoughts on the episode?
Oh, I was great. I thought she'd be a great guest to have on the show, and she was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really, just like I said, she's a dynamo and really gets going, gets on these things. And I think she's like a lot of people we have on the show. You know, she found her passion.
Yeah.
She's from Belgium. She didn't grow up like diving in, you know, pretty reefs and all that kind of stuff. She just but she went there and did some intern, you know, with some of the other groups, Simon Pierce and others, and she found her passion. And I guess the kind of the neat thing about our podcast, we really bring people on who just have found their passion in life, and they just do what they need to do to pursue that. And it's really kind of rewarding. I think I just really the kind of having people on that, because I think that synergy sort of builds. You get somebody on there that's excited about it, and hopefully, you know, we reach some young people out there listening to this podcast, and they're just like, yeah, that's what I want to do, and they kind of hopefully they pick up a little bit on how other people like Stella and others have done it, and it kind of gives them a bit of inspiration to pursue their own passion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's wonderful, you know, to be able to study a shark like the whale shark and be able to find out more information about it and contribute to the information. It's just like you've said all along, Dave, or pick up a species that people don't know a lot about and find out as much as possible on that shark. And it works every single time. We see it with the Angel Shark Project. We see it with whale sharks. We see it with lost sharks. Like, it's just, or echinoderms, not echinoderms, ghost sharks. Sorry, the chimeras.
Sharks,
I'm thinking of starfish for some reason, but the chimeras. It's pretty cool when people start to look into this, the amount of information they can pull up and be able to share with people all over the world. And they do that with this podcast, which is great.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was really kind of cool too, because she shared this new science, this movement patterns that they have the whale shark. They had their first one show up out in the Seychelles, of all places. And which was, on the one hand, it wasn't too surprising, but the fact that they actually got documentation now that it went out there, and she was real excited about it. And actually, when we recorded the show, she has a paper coming out on it. We kind of we've held the episode up for a couple of weeks just waiting for the paper to get published. But we didn't want to usurp her paper coming out. And but that was pretty exciting, because I know when she had it, she was still in Madagascar a couple months ago, and she sent me a message about this amazing find she had. She was so excited about it, and she was like, "Okay, now don't tell anybody. I want to get this publication out really quickly." So it was exciting. It was exciting for me, because I knew a little bit what was going on there, and I thought, oh, great, we'll have to have her on the podcast there to talk about and share this amazing discovery for her. So that was good. And it was great. We were able to do that and accommodate people like her to come on the show and be able to share that exciting science. And hopefully we'll be doing that again with other guests later this year. I
can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's the episode. If you guys have any questions or comments, let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the comments below, or if you're watching this on like, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, you can reach out to Dave or I. Beyond Jaws Pod can get both of us. If you want to reach out to Dave specifically, at Lost Shark Guy on Instagram, as well as any other social platform that you can find. X, I think, Facebook, it's at Lost Shark Guy.
Facebook, the usual places.
The usual places, and Beyond Jaws Pod on Instagram for us, to get both of us. And, we just want to thank you so much for joining us and listening to this episode. Always love to hear your thoughts, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts in the future. So thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. From Dave and I, your hosts, we thank you so much. Have a great day and happy conservation.